is the Dublin Special Master.
Live and direct.
Breakfast with CubCamTV.
Trickstar Radio.
Right then, people, we're back inside the building. It's just gone 5 minutes past 9 here on Trickstar Radio, and we are moving into the interview hour. Today, we're having a conversation with someone who is very multifaceted in the musical approach they bring, someone who's involved in a lot of different areas, and someone who's just come off the back of a very enjoyable performance down at the Volks, I believe. So we're going to get into this conversation right about now. Sammie Hall is in the building. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
It's great to have you in. How's your morning going so far? Are you normally an early riser?
Yeah, it's been going fine. I just went to bed early last night, so to make sure I could get up.
Nice. Well, you and me both on that one. It was one of those. It felt like one of those weekends out in the sun. So obviously, with these conversations, we love to dive into people's kind of backstories and their sort of history, and their sort of musical journey more than anything else, just to really understand them, their sound. So, do you want to kind of talk me through the early days of you, kind of musically, what the kind of situation was, how you first got involved? Like, what's the story?
Okay, yeah. So I grew up in a very musical household. There was always music playing from like the 60s, 70s, psychedelic rock. My mum and dad are very much into their music. So from a very young age, I was singing on the stage at like on holiday and in competitions, that kind of thing. And then as I got a bit older, I started really getting into open mic nights, and I made lots of friends who really sort of encouraged me, and I taught myself how to play the guitar. And then I started writing my own acoustic songs.
Okay.
Then I joined a couple of bands. I was in a blues band. I was in an acoustic duo, like a covers band, and just singing all the time. And then when it comes to the drum and bass side of things, I started out with that when I was around 16, 17.
Okay.
And I had my own radio show on Radio Reverb, which was, a drum and bass station. So I used to go to a lot of raves, mainly in London, from sort of Thursday to Saturday, like Fabric, The End, SE1, Coronet, Mass. So I was just always raving. And then it was only a couple of years ago when I suddenly, I met a producer called Trouble at the Volks. And he just really encouraged me for like a whole year. And he was saying, look, you can do this. You know, I kept saying, I can't write to drum and bass. It's too hard. So yeah, he really, really encouraged me. And eventually we did one of our first tracks, which was called Playing with Fire. It's still not released. It's
Always the way.
Yeah, it's from quite a long time ago. But we started doing live PAs, at the Volks, also at Jungle Mania at the Arch. And then it all started to go really well. Did about 5 live shows, and then COVID hit, and then lockdown started. Yeah.
So I mean, for you then, obviously, you've got very much a kind of, I suppose, quite a traditional musical background when it comes to sort of singing. You've gone through those sort of like blues roots. You've kind of gone through being in bands, being in sort of open mic nights, all the sort of quite traditional sort of things. How did you find then sort of transitioning those kind of experiences into essentially the world of D&B, which is very electronic? It's very much about the rave culture and the things that surround it. Like, how did you find that transition?
I just feel like it's meant to be.
Okay.
I feel like it was inevitable, really. But because I've always loved drum and bass so much, it's always been my first love with music. And then just sort of putting the two and two together just seems to be a great fit for me, and it's what I want to do forever.
Okay, well, it's really interesting hearing, because obviously you've been kind of putting together a few tunes here and there. We've heard a few bits landing, and obviously COVID landing at the time it was probably the worst luck, because you were starting to really pick up that momentum, and we were starting to see essentially what the future was going to look like for you. Like, in regards to kind of playing those live shows, did you always prefer playing live, or did you prefer the more sort of studio atmosphere in regards to like actually that sort of musical creation side of things?
Well, I've always absolutely loved the live shows. But it was really when lockdown hit. At first, I did really sort of struggle with it. I was obviously extremely disappointed, because after that, the last night I did was a live PA with Clue at the Concorde. And I was like, this is actually one of the best nights of my life.
Of course,
and that was the last one. So I did obviously really struggle with it and felt really low, because I was picturing all the festivals that I was going to be playing at. But then what actually happened for me is I was then furloughed for 8 months.
Okay.
And for me personally, it was great, because I'd always worked really hard. I'd always worked full time. And then suddenly I had this break, and then I was able to, I upgraded all my equipment. So I've got my own home studio.
Which is always useful.
suddenly
Which is
given-
always really useful to have.
Suddenly just given all of this time, which I was probably spending about 8 hours a day writing and recording,
Wow.
maybe even more than that. In fact, I only stopped in the studio when my eyes and legs just couldn't take me standing up and my voice went, you know. So that I just started networking with people on Instagram and just made so many lovely friends who, some of them who I still can't wait to meet, a couple I have already. So yeah, I just spent all of that time networking and just building
Just
everything
proper
up.
threw yourself into it, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to see. Obviously, it's not just the actual music as well. I have seen you involved in the sort of more production side in regards to sample packs and things like that. I'm pretty sure I saw
Yeah.
something floating around on the news feeds. Like, talk to me about how you got involved in that side of things as well, because that always seems to be something that people stumble into without realising that it's something they want to do.
Well, yeah, it's amazing actually because Jack Hedges, who runs by the producer, put a status up saying, I'm looking for a vocalist. I got tagged, we got talking, and I thought he meant, you know, to like sing on a track or something like that. But he actually just wanted somebody to just for like to talk or for like a promotion thing for one of his recent tracks. And I said to him there, I was like, oh, I'd love to work on a track with you. And he said, well, would you be up for doing a sample pack? So I was like, definitely. So my good friend James, who is in Solar, me and him worked together on it. So he did all of like the vocal engineering side. We spent about 10 weeks on Zoom, probably 10 hours a week. Whilst I was I was writing and recording it. I took some of those songs where the producers have been taking far too long, like over a year or something. I was like, do you know what? It's not, you know, so I used some of them in the song construction kits. It was a real learning curve. And that was just released a few weeks ago, and it's been doing really, really well. And it's been, it just really makes me smile to some of the tracks I've been, receiving off the back of that.
I was going to say, yeah.
They've had radio plays.
I was going to say, do you get like tags in statuses with where the samples have been used?
I've been getting tagged in loads of stories and everything. So it's so nice because after all that hard work, I'm currently working on a second one, so I must be mad really after that, taking up my whole life. But I'm working on one for Shogun at the moment.
Amazing.
So that's going to be twice the size, so it's taking twice the time. But luckily, this time round, rather than me doing all the writing, because that takes up a lot of headspace, my friend James is also, he's a talented songwriter, great with melody. So we've literally been doing it together 50-50. So that's going to be hopefully out, in a couple of months' time.
Amazing. I mean, something that people, for obviously those that are listening who don't know what a sample pack is, it's essentially as you said, a construction kit for making music. So you get drum sample packs, you get sort of instrumental sample packs, you get vocal additions in sample packs where people kind of do top lines and sort of random phrases and things like that, and they kind of get layered into a lot of the tunes that you listen to. I mean, for a lot of people as well, I don't think they'd necessarily realise how creatively straining putting together a sample pack is, because every single time you put something in there, you go, I can't use that now. That's for everyone else to use. It's not mine anymore. Like, did you find that sort of process of actually putting the stuff together relatively straightforward, or was it a bit of a time consumer?
Oh, it's very time consuming. And the first sample pack, it's sort of like, you don't want to put your best bit in because it's like,
I want to keep that one. I want to keep that little bit.
Especially when like they suddenly, it gets stuck in your head, some of these hooks, and it's like, oh, I love that so much. So there was a couple that I sort of held back from that one because I was like, oh, I really need to keep that. But with the Shogun one, I've just learned from that there's going to be thousands of songs that I can write and co-write. And I just want it to be the best it can possibly be now, and I've just decided to say, right, I'm going to give these ones away. I mean, 3 of the songs construction kits has mainly been my friend James that's written them, and we were going to sort of do them together, but we were like, no, keep them in the pack, let's just move on, because we're going to be inspired by completely different things in the future, and this, I'm just completely giving it my all.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see, and I love seeing people kind of expand what they're doing musically and kind of take it by the reins and go, you know what, we're going there, we're going to do a bit of that, a bit of that, a bit of that, and it becomes much more of a kind of normal process, I find. Once you've kind of got involved in a lot of different areas, you want to get involved in more, like as time goes on.
Definitely. And I've just been I love looking back on my list of goals from like a year ago, because I kind of update them every 6 months, and I'd say my list of goals it's just changed so much. Like, I never would have imagined that I'd be recording a sample pack.
Yeah, of course.
It hadn't even crossed my mind. I love kind of ticking everything off, and adding to my goals
and
for
just
the future.
keep adding things on. Well, we're going to add something onto the selection today. We're going to get into one of the tracks that you have been working on, and this one I'm very much looking forward to getting into. It's produced by Silly, featuring yourself, and it goes by the name of I Need You. Talk me through this tune and what we can expect.
This was another track that came out of lockdown, actually. Silly sent me a message, said, "Are you up for working on something?" I've been, loving his music for a while. He's an absolute quality producer. And the whole thing was finished within a week.
Wow.
Literally. He sent it, it was just, it doesn't always work out like that, of course. But it was already called I Need You, so that's kind of where I got the inspiration from. I used a little bit of some lyrics that didn't work out on another track, and it just came together within a week. And the reason I've picked this today, I know it's a slightly older one from the beginning of lockdown, but this has been one of my favourites. So.
Amazing. Well, I'm looking forward to getting into it. You know what? There's nothing wrong with kind of going back into the catalogue as well. I tend to find, like, as you said, you're always adding to the list of goals, but it's good to kind of look back and go, you know what? That's where all of this kind of comes from, and kind of looking back over the discography. It's always important to do it. It's something I'd actually encourage a lot more musicians to do. Is kind of look back at your old work and go, you know what? We're actually going to show this one off today. We're going to show something from back in the day on. So we're going to get into this one right about now. It's just gone 16 minutes past 9 here on Trickstar Radio. We are in the building with Sammie Hall. In regards to socials, what's the best place for people to kind of find you online?
Definitely Instagram and Facebook, and it's just at Sammie, Sammie Hall Music.
Amazing stuff. We're going to get into this one right about now. It goes by the name of I Need You, featuring Sammie Hall, who's in the building with us for the next sort of 15 minutes or so. This one produced by Silly. Keep it locked and don't go anywhere. It's Breakfast with KXVU.
This is Breakfast with KXVU, bringing you their morning flavours on Trickstar Radio.
Trickstar Radio.